David's refusal to drink the water that they risked their life for. That was what we were in the middle of talking about. And the discussion that we had was, why did he refuse? What was wrong with drinking this water? Now, again, what happened was his three great warriors, who doesn't really say clearly who they were, they went into enemy territory, and the Plishtim, and they brought water for David HaMelech. Now, this was a real act of risking their lives, and on a simple level, David did not want to drink this water because they did something wrong. It was not a matter of life and death, and therefore they were not allowed to risk their life just to get this water. They were doing it, it was more adventurous for them, but it was a matter of not that they weren't really allowed to do. You can't do something adventurous if it has, such risk. And they chose to do this. Obviously, they were thinking, well, we're doing it for David, and this is such a great thing. But David, it's not clear if David even mentioned it to them, or he was just, he definitely didn't command them to do it. He didn't expect them to do it. It could be that he was just saying that, oh, I feel so thirsty. Or, he might have even mentioned it to them that he's thirsty, but not that they should do anything, but not that they should go and risk their life. Now, the fact that David, so what David did was he said, I'm going to give this water as a sacrifice. It's a little unclear as well. Did he build an altar right there? Did he save the water and pour it later on an altar when he went to? We did mention that you were allowed to have private altars at that time. So there's there's different commentaries explain different ways of understanding what he did, but he basically gave the water as a sacrifice. And this was even though he was obviously very thirsty, but this was sort of like a way of teaching them that they really should not have risked their life. They have to be more careful about their life. A person has to guard your life. And it's not easy because people like to do things that are adventurous. People like to do things that are enjoyable. And we sort of pick and choose what we like to do for that's healthy and what we don't really care about. And really, we should be. It's a mitzvah in the Torah to be healthy, but again, it's not easy.
Rabbi,
yes, Moshe.
Mayim and Torah are supposed to be the same, so wasn't this more emphasis on the Torah than it was on the actual drinking of the water?
So that's the alternative explanation that I spoke about last week. That. Yes. That's the alternative. There is, a simple reading of it, and then there's the Talmudic interpretation, which refers to they went to a Beis Din and they risked their life to go get Torah from a court of law that was beyond enemy territory, and they risked their life as well in a way that they that was dangerous, and someone who risks their life in such a way. The law is, and this is based on the Talmudic statement in the Talmud, that it can't be repeated in the name of the person who risked his life to get this teaching, and therefore it says that he so to speak poured out the water, meaning he didn't want to repeat it, the teaching, and at least in the name of the people who went and risked their life for it. So so these are the two ways of understanding the story here. And let me just go back inside. We're in chapter 23, verse 15. David had a craving, and he said, if only someone could give me water to drink from the well of Beis Lechem, which is in the city gate. So the three mighty men broke into the camp of the Plishtim and drew water from the well of Beis Lechem, which is at the gate, and they carried and brought it to David. But he refused to drink it. He poured it out to Hashem. She said, far be it from me, Hashem, that I should do this. Is this not tantamount to the blood of men who risked their lives to go, and he refused to drink it?
Rabbi, which verse are you on?
Verse 17, we're at the end. These are what the three mighty men did. So that's the end of verse 17. And we're talking about the great warriors of David and how they risked they risked their life. And the Medrash talks about how they actually had to kill people to get this water, and in the enemy territory. And it was really miraculous how they ended up with getting this water. Now, or if you want to use the alternative interpretation, getting this teaching of Torah. Now, the verse 18 mentions Avishai, the brother of Yoav, the son of Tzeruiah, who we've learned a lot about, his being a great commander and warrior. The brother of Yoav, of Tzeruiah, the son of Tzeruiah. He was the head of the three. He wielded his sword over 300 corpses. In other words, he killed 300 in one shot. He was well known among the three. He was, like famous. Of the three, he was most honored, became their leader, but he did not compare to the first three. So it's comparing them to the earlier three that we mentioned, who were very powerful. And then it mentions now in verse 20, Benayahu, the son of Yehoiada, was a man of many achievements, a valiant man of many achievements from Kabzeel, and he struck down two commanders of Moab, and he also went down and slew a lion in the middle of a pit on a snowy day. Now, striking down the two commanders of Moab, and the Hebrew term is that he struck down, it's Shnei Ariel Moav. Ariel is a term for lions, and he struck down two lions of Moab. And the Talmud explains that it refers to the Batei Hamikdash, that he was greater, that there was no one in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash and in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash that reached his level of holiness. And it calls the Beis Hamikdash the Ariel of Moab, the lions of Moab. And in our translation, it says the commanders of Moab, but literally Ariel literally it means lions. And well, what this means is that there was no one on his level in both of those Beis Hamikdashes, not in the first and not in the second. That's what it's hinting to when it says this, that he struck down these two commanders of Moab. It means that he was greater than the great people of the time of the first temple and the people that lived in the time of the second temple. And then it mentions that he slew a lion in the middle of a pit on a snowy day. And that's referring to another story of how he once was going into a mikvah, and he lowered himself into this pit, and he saw that there was a lion standing on the ice, that it was not water, it was actually ice. And there was a lion right there. And under regular circumstances, you would, on such a cold day, you would think that it's, that he didn't have his full strength, and yet he was able to kill the lion. And that's what it's referring to. He was able to kill the lion with his bare hands, and or with his and slew a lion in the middle of a pit on a snowy day. Yeah. So that's what it's at least that's one of the explanations over here, that it's referring to this killing the lion on his way to going to a mikvah dunk. Now, there is an interpretation of the Gemara as well, that this refers to his studying of the entire laws of the Kohanim, the laws of Kohanim, which means the book of Vayikra, basically, of the Torah, that he studied those laws on one snowy day, meaning his great knowledge and ability to concentrate and study Torah on this on this snowy day of the winter, he accomplished that much. Now, verse 21 says that he also struck down an Egyptian man, a man of imposing appearance. In the hand of the Egyptian was a spear, and he came down upon him with a stick and stole the spear from the hand of the Egyptian and killed him with his own spear. So he killed the Egyptian, and with his own spear. In the book of Chronicles, it mentioned that this man was very tall, extremely tall, and yet he was able to kill him. Now, it was also a very thick spear, and yet he was able to steal it from him and kill the Egyptian with it. Now, verse 22 is these things Benayo, son of Yehoiada, did. He was well known among the three mighty men, which means that he was quite popular, and he was more honored than the 30. Now, that's one way of learning this, is that there were 30, which we'll soon read about, but he did not compare to the first three, and David set him as his mishmatoi, to be with him, to be his confidant. And that was this Benayahu ben Yehoiada, which we did learn a little about him in the Talmud, going back to the early part of Tractate Brachos, where it mentions Benayahu ben Yehoiada. Now, here it's mentioning that some of the great things, powerful things that he did, but it also refers to his greatness in Torah as well. As we mentioned, both there's the literal meaning, which is both are correct. There's the literal meaning, and then there's a different layer of meaning, which refers to his spiritual success in Torah study. And there is a commentary over here mentioned that it brings one of the Rosh Hashivas of the last generation, Rabbi Gedalia Shor, who was a Rosh Hashiva in Tervadas, and he says an interesting point here. He says that when you fight a lion, you got to have full concentration, and the same thing applies to Benayahu ben Yehoiada's Torah study, that you can't relax and take off your concentration for one moment. You've got to have such concentration of fighting a lion. So he says that's what it means that Benayahu ben Yehoiada, he smote the lion, and it refers to his study of the Torah's Koyanim, of the laws of the Koyanim, which is the book of Vayikra, that he studied the book of Leviticus, and it means that he had such concentration, which is really an inspiration for us, that, if you really want to succeed in Torah study, you have to have full concentration. A lot of people think they could look at their phones, and talking to myself as well, we think we can do a few things at once. And the real success of Torah study is focus, which is really one of the sicknesses of today, is that people don't focus. We don't have good focus on anything. And we're always busy with a few things and thinking about other things, trying to do this, but thinking about something else. And focus is really the secret to success, because you put your mind fully to something and nothing else can interrupt you. And this was at least according to this interpretation, this is what the Talmud is saying about Benayahu ben Yehoiada. The way he is comparing him to his Torah study to killing a lion. Now, the verse 23, I mentioned that he was more honored than the 30. Now, that's one way of interpreting it. There is another interpretation that it means not the shloishim, but it's a term used for those that are powerful and the mighty, or the captains. And so he was more honored than the other mighty men. So it's not really giving a number. Now, if it is referring to the number, it's going on the next few verses. We're going to go through many numbers over here, many individual great warriors and mighty people. Now, the list goes, and let's just read it inside. So there's many names. Verse 24, Asahel is the brother of Yoav, was among the 30. Now, if you remember, Asahel was killed by Avner. And so it's a good little review of some of the previous, going back a little, where Avner killed Asahel, and then ultimately Yoav killed Avner. Now, so Asahel, the brother of Yoav, was among the 30 who were, and now it mentions all these names: Elchanan, the son of Dodo from Beis Lechem; Shama from the Charodite, from Charodi; Elika from the Charodite, which is really the Hebrew word would be Charodi, and Cheletz, Hapalti, the Paltite, and Ira ben Ikesh Hatokoyi, Ira the son of Ikesh from Tekoya. Tekoya, if you remember, was where they had a woman. They were very smart people, and that's where they used to get the oil for the Beis Hamikdash, for the menorah, if you remember. And there was a smart woman there that Yoav hired in order to try to get David HaMelech to bring Shalom back from going to his Goyish grandfather, and he was hanging out in Goyish territory, and Yoav felt that it would be better for David if he had some relationship with his son Avshalom, and he arranged for a woman from Tekoa to make up a story which would ultimately be a parable for David HaMelech to allow Avshalom to come back. Now, so anyway, this is another person from Tekoa. Avi Ezer Ho'an Soisi. So Avi Ezer, the Anasosite, Mevunai Hachushasi, and Mevunai from Chusha. Talmoin ha'achoichi, Mahari hanatoifasi, Chalev ben Bana hanatoifasi, Itai ben Levi, Megivas b'nei Binyamin, Benayo Pirasoini. So these are all names. Benayo Pirasoini, Hidai, Menachale Goash, from this place called Nachale Goash, the valley or the streams of Goash. Avi Alboin ha'arvasi azmaves haborchami el yachba hashalvoini b'nei Yoshan Yehoinasan Shama haharari Achiam. Now Shama haharari does bring us back to the name we had before from Harari. That was it was mentioned a little earlier here when we mentioned these three people. We mentioned the three great warriors, Dinah Ha'etzdi and Shama ben Age Harari. And here we have Shama Harari. So and the verse continues. Shama Harari, Achiam ben Shoror Harari, Eli Feled ben Achasbai ben Hamachosi, Eliam ben Achitophel Hagiloini. Now, Eliam is a very famous person because Eliam is the son of Achitophel, and he's also the father of Bat-Sheva. The whole story of David HaMelech with Bat-Sheva is the daughter of Eliam, this Eliam, who's the son of Achitophel. That's now Achitophel we also know a lot about. He was the advisor of David, and his advice was considered to be great advice, always great advice. Even his advice for Avshalom would have been theoretically very smart, but Avshalom listened to Hushai Ha'arki instead, and that's what ended up. It ended up being making them fail and lose their, lose the war. Chetzrai Hakarmeli Harai Ha'arbi Yigal ben Nasan Mitzoiva ben Bonai Hagodi and Tzelek Ha'amayni Nachrei Ha'beiroisi Noisei Leyoyav ben Sruya. So it mentions in the end over here that the Nacharai from Be'eros, he was the one who carried the armor of Yoav. So now we got some names. So, it's interesting. We've been dealing with all these wars all along, but we never really had any names to put to these soldiers. And so, or to these, or like lower level, maybe under Yoav, under Avishai. Now we're getting some of those names. And so this is the one who carried the armor bearer of Yoav. It was Nacharai from Be'eros. Ira Hayisri, Garev Hayisri, Uriah Achiti, Kol Shleishim V'Shiva. So Uriah Hachiti, altogether, there were 37. There were 37 mighty men. And how do you come to 37? So it's either counting the earlier 3 men of the first of that group that I mentioned before, Adino Yaetzni and Elazar ben Dodo and Shama ben Agay. So that would be a way to come to an extra 3, and then you have the 3 that went to get water for David, and Benayo, that would be altogether 37. Now, it could also be that in verse 32, B'nai Yoshen Yehonasan, the children of Yoshen, and then it mentions Yehonasan. It could be, at least the way Rashi learns, is that there were more than one child over there, and additionally, he says Yoav. It should have mentioned, and so there are different ways of understanding how you come to this number. So the other option is the other 3 that it mentions, the later 3, verse 18, Avishai and Benayo ben Yehoyada, and it basically, if you add the first 3 the group of 3, and the second group of 3, and then you add Yoav. So these are different interpretations of the commentaries to come up with this final number. And this actually concludes. Let me just mute. Okay, this is quiet. So this actually concludes chapter 23 with all these names, and I will mention that in the book of Chronicles it does give different names. In the book of Divrei Hayamim, it does have seemingly different names for some of these people, but that's not surprising because we've seen that often in the time of the Talmud. People would have other names based on different things that they did, hinting to their merits, to their good deeds, to their talents. And so it's not that surprising that they had that there are some discrepancies, meaning that some of the people here are mentioned here, not mentioned there, basically because they are mentioned by a different name. Okay, I'm going to hand over the mic to Rabbi Wernick. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.